There's always these issues out here dealing with beauty. And if you've been hanging out on my channel for a while, you already know, kind of how I feel about attractiveness and the fact that most women are attractive. And like I say, honestly, most men are attractive. But we still have this thing where we're always worried about somebody else outside of the people that we really should be paying attention to. And this happens for so many different reasons. One of them is just simply we are attracted to someone who is not attracted to us, right? And we don't give ourselves that opportunity to find someone who just likes us for us. It's like I'm always saying, like the person that likes you.
For me, what I came to realize is that no, I'm not ugly, I'm not unattractive. But if you're basing it off of society standards, I feel like society mostly views me as average. I'm also self-aware in the fact that most men don't view me as a 10. And that's something that I have just accepted. I've always been in that scenario where my friends are usually way more better looking than I am. The only way people are gonna view you as a 10 is if you think of yourself as a 10. An unpopular opinion, I don't think that's necessarily true all the time. But just because I wake up in the morning and I tell myself that I'm a 10 does not mean I'm gonna walk out of this house and every man that looks at me is gonna think I'm a 10. That's just not realistic in my opinion. I've never been treated like I'm super attractive. Like I've never gotten any special treatment. I've never had pretty privilege. I've never had men go out of their way for me. I've never had men offer to buy me anything or pay for my food. It doesn't bother me anymore. I don't get upset by it. I've just accepted this is what I look like. I refuse to get plastic surgery. I'm not gonna change my facial appearance, and so either you like me or you don't. We are going to be talking about being the least attractive person in the friend group. In me, watching some of the TikToks of people talking about this, I could relate so much to what was being said. Now, for me, right, this has been the story of my life, my entire life. And it's something that bothered me a lot when I was younger, especially in high school. I hated myself in high school. I'm not gonna hold you. I really despised myself. Like I didn't like who I was. I didn't like how I looked. Granted, I feel like my looks have gotten better since high school, but I feel like that's the case with most people. Like when you look back at your high school photos, you're like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Because I used to think that I was genuinely ugly to the point where when I would look at myself in the mirror, I would burst out into tears because I couldn't stand looking at myself. Like that's how in the gutter my self-esteem was. And I wasn't at what made me finally not look at myself in that way is to kind of just come to terms with where society is. Society is very shallow. I mean, let's keep it a buck.
Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you know what I'm about. So let's get into it. So this video is from Life with Bri. I'm actually going to start probably putting a lot of people's tags in the description so you guys can go check it out. It's a little bit easier, and I think it's a way to get around, social media, especially out here on YouTube, a little bit more so than others. And, from what she is saying, I agree and disagree, and the reason why, especially as a man, is because I often see a lot of women that are very attractive, but they just refuse to glam themselves up, right? And glamour and beauty are two totally different things. And a lot of times we actually get them, interchanged and with this mindset that they are the same thing, but they're really not. A lot of women that I remember being back in high school, and a lot of the women that did very well in high school, a lot of the girls that did really well, I'll be honest, I mean, their mom was just on it. These women were wearing trendy clothes. It might not necessarily been the most expensive clothes, but they were wearing trendy clothes. Their mom taught them how to press out their clothes or send them to the cleaners. Their mom would teach them about jewelry and which jewelry to wear and which not to wear. I remember when I got my first set of contact lenses, and that did not happen for me until I think I was in 10th grade because, My dad listened to the eye doctor, which said that he did not encourage, people to get that until they were 15 because, kids are not responsible. But I knew girls that had contacts at 12 years old because their parents understood that beauty was power, right? And that glasses might hold them back. I knew girls that literally went, and got their hair, worked on every week, not every 2 weeks, not, once a month, but every single Saturday, they were in there. Either they learned how to do their hair themselves or, they were in the beauty shop. You see, we got to think about all these things. And a lot of times people don't talk about these things. I'll be honest, I even saw it with a lot of guys. There were men that, like I said, like for me, I'll be lucky to go to the barber twice a month. For some reason, my parents were just okay with my hair just growing out. And back then, it only cost like $10 to go to the barbershop. But I guess also back then, it only cost $1, for a loaf of bread. And now a loaf of bread is almost $4. So I guess, maybe it wasn't as cheap as what I thought it was. But, I did notice that, there was certain guys that always had, the best gear, the freshest stuff. They were wearing Jordans when Jordans came out, and back then they were $300 back then, and so it was all these types of things. So for me, just to have a couple of cute outfits, to get to the place of going to the barbershop, things like that would help to boost my confidence. I didn't really have that as much, especially in middle school. But as I started to get into high school, and everybody gets jobs, that's when people just start buying it for themselves, right? But even then, you'll have parents that will put their child in, honestly, a Lexus, or they'll buy their child a BMW. And so you're sitting around, like as a guy, you're sitting around like, dang, this dude got a BMW, and I'm over here driving this hatchback Honda Civic. You know what I'm saying? And so it would always put, this extra pressure on you, unless you just happen to be overly handsome or overly tall, from a male perspective. Now, what she's talking about when it comes to pretty privilege, I'll always say that it's a real thing. And I'll be honest with you, part of me wants to say, it shouldn't be that way. But then the other part of me wants to say, anybody can tap into it. And a lot more women are able to tap into it than men. And I know a lot of women might be saying, no, Jay, that's not fair. But here's why I say that. What is attractive to women a lot of times deals with, like I say, the non-negotiables: protection, provision, and leadership. And when you are in your 20s, it is very difficult for a man to show up in that unless he comes from a lineage of that. You kind of understand what I'm saying? So like, for instance, if my father, which he didn't, and my father did not do this, but if my father, because he is a business owner, but if he had been a multimillionaire, and then when I turned 22, he said, hey, I want you to come in, you're going to be a vice president, and we're going to start you off at $250,000 a year. See, at that point, he is creating a provider at 22, right? And so at that point, if I'm walking around with $250,000, even in today's standards, not even saying when I actually was 22, I would be, just, living it up, let's be real. All right. And even though I'm only, like I say, 5'8.5", on a good day, that would have overshadowed, the height thing, which is something else that a lot of women are into. And while not all women are into it, the average woman does prefer a man that's a little bit taller. So when you start to talk about, you have women from probably as short as, 4'5", all the way up to literally being 6'2" in themselves. A man that is 6'2" can talk to every single one of those women. But for somebody that's 5'8", it's really difficult for me to talk to a woman that's really over 5'10". I actually have, believe it or not, I've actually talked to some women that were 5'10". They didn't really have a problem with it, but it's hard to get to that 6 foot level or that 6'2" level because those women just simply don't want, to have that distance. So does this make sense? So from a woman's perspective, height is never really an issue unless the woman, like I say, happens to be over 6 foot tall. And even then she can choose men that are shorter if she desires. Because most men, some women think men are intimidated by a woman's height, but most of us are not. We just don't want to listen to a woman's, to be honest with you, we don't want to listen to her complaints. And we also don't want her insecurities because she's concerned about what other people say to come back on us. Like, remember, I did weddings at one time, and I actually had this happen several times where the bride or, the engaged woman was taller, significantly taller, like at least 3 inches or more taller than her fiance or her husband. And in all those cases, the man would literally bring around a little stool that was about 4 inches tall, and he would put it down, and then he would stand on it for all of, the wedding pictures. And I've even been out, among friends where a woman might be, 5'5", and I've seen her duck a little bit, when she basically takes a picture with me. It's almost like she wants that height to even be seen. Where with me, I love it when a woman puts on heels and she's right at my height. That's really the purpose of heels, is for her to come to my level, not for her to, still have a gap, in between. All right, so let's get back to this, right? So I understand, I can say part of her frustration, but again, this is why we talk a lot about, going to the people that, that find you attractive, right? So I've actually talked about a lot of this, this stuff before, some of the stuff that you're seeing on the screen right now. And what you see, those pictures, those are averages, what they call an average. And so what they do is they'll take like 20 or 50 pictures at random, from African Americans, white Americans, and then you see a few people from like Cameroon, Nigeria, and Ivory Coast. And then they'll take the average. So they'll grab, 20 people, and then they let the computer, pick out the average nose size, the average eye size, the average eye shape, forehead, different things like that. And, for all the black people watching, you can easily see, I didn't do a lot with the European Americans / white Americans because, back then I was, most of my people that follow me, were basically, African American. So anyway, what you can see, because you're dealing with the Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and Cameroon, if you really pay attention, because those are all women, and you look at the black lady, she actually looks like them. She actually really does. She looks a lot like she could be their cousin, right? And that's because that's where most black people come from. We come from the west coast of Africa. But you notice that she's lighter. And the main reason why she's lighter is because most African Americans are generally around 20% Caucasian, all right? And most of us know that because, massa like to go down and be, with the folk sometimes, all right? So that's how that happens. So don't get worried about it. Don't get weird about it. Now, when you see like the white American lady and then you see the black lady, you see there starts to be more differences there. You notice that, the white ladies, her face is literally longer. It is literally longer. Can you see that? Right? You see that's literally longer. And you see that black people generally have more of a short, rounder face with pretty big foreheads. I mean, most of us have pretty big foreheads. And then I run into, women all the time. They'll be like, I don't like how big my forehead is. I'm like, boo, you black. I mean, that's just how it is. So when you look at the dogs, right, and you look at this bottom picture with the blue trim, right, you notice all those puppies are from the same litter, right? And as we look at them, if we really, really pay attention, all of them look different. They really do. I mean, if you really pay attention, they look different. Even the little white on their nose, it's slightly to the left on one of them. This one is only on half the size. This one doesn't even have much. It's just like a little sliver. So we can see that all these dogs, while they look similar, they're not. They're all very different. And see, that is the core element of everything. And this is why I'm always telling people, you are attractive. You're just attractive to your tribe. You're attracted to the people who look like you. And so when we look at all these other dogs up here, that's really what we're getting at, right? Because see, if you are a person out there, and you might not like dogs, maybe you like cats, but we're going to use the dog scenario. There are people out here that love pit bulls. They think pit bulls are the cutest, sweetest, nicest dogs in the world. They see their face, they're like, oh, you, and they just get all happy, right? And then you have other people that love Yorkies. They love how small they are. They love their little faces. They like the way their fur is. They're like, oh, the little Yorkie, right? And then you have other people that like collies. You have other people that like beagles. You have other people that like Dalmatians. But can I say, if I'm a fan of beagles and I just love beagles, how can I look at a Rottweiler and say that a Rottweiler is unattractive? How can I truly say that a pit bull is unattractive? How can I say a Yorkie is unattractive? See, the problem is we might be beagle people, but then we want the Rottweiler to like us. We want the Yorkie to like us. But Yorkies like Yorkies. They might like other little small dogs that sort of look like Yorkies, like a Yorkie poo. But the bottom line is they probably like people that like that. And this starts to make sense. So one of the main problems that we all have is that we're trying to get society to like us. And actually, if you ever really dive deep into these studies, you'll find out they've never had a picture that they could put in front of 100 men and get all 100 men to say that that woman that they're looking at is pretty. They've never been able to do it. They've only been able to get about 70%. That's really all they can ever pull. So the prettiest a woman could ever be in our society is a 7 out of 10. That is the prettiest she can ever be. However, a woman can be gorgeous to the man that she is meant for. There is a man out there for every woman where he will look at her and say, wow, you are a 10 out of 10. You are the prettiest woman I have ever seen. I like you so much. But a lot of times, women might bypass those men. Women might look over certain things. And that's just how it is. So we got to, think about, all of these things. So like when we look here, what we see again is just more like on the previous page. But on this one, I put in the East Africans, right? So when you're talking about East Africans, you're talking about like Somalia, Ethiopia. I think it's Eritrea. Somebody can basically, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Eritrea. But you're basically talking about that area, the Horn of Africa, right? So when you look over there, they tend to have, smaller noses and longer faces because they have more Indian influence and more Middle Eastern influence. In fact, if you look at the whole world, you can actually see how people slowly turn, from one race to the next, actually, as they slightly go over, the world. In fact, like Russians, a lot of Russians have a lot of Chinese in them. Okay. And so you'll get more, a different, more monolith type of eye that'll be in more Russians than you will get, like, say, per se, in somebody like from the UK. Okay. And so this whole concept that people have not blended over the years is really a lie. Humans have always done that. And then we also mutate based off of our environment, right? Because a lot of the main reasons why black people's hair stands up is because Africa is hot. And so therefore the hair is up. Most women know this when they pull their hair back in the summer is to get, so they can have cooling on their neck. But in Europe is cooler. So the hair needs to be down so that the neck is warmed. You also see a lot more Europeans. They tend to have more hair all over their body. While we will, you can have that a little bit in Africa, but you don't have it as much. It's actually more sparse. The hair is more sparse in Africa because you don't need to warm up the body, right? So a lot of times the way that we look is basically, God through Mother Nature basically mutating us for our environment, all right? So when we talk about you liking you, it's all about every place where people have settled. And as you get people with strong genes, generally the people that conquered, generally males that conquered that area were the leaders of that area, those people are generally going to, have, their genes, go down. Like I think Genghis Khan killed so many people in China that I think 25% of the Chinese today are actually related to Genghis Khan. I think that's it. Somebody can in the comments, can tell me whether or not that's 100% true if they know it. But I believe, but see, that's how it worked. That's why they would kill off families and stuff, because it's all about the genes. It's all about, genes. And that's why when people say they don't want to have children, that's like the dumbest thing in the world, because that's what people have fought for literally for thousands upon thousands of years, for their blood to literally, get to the next generation. So one of the main things I'm always talking about is maximization. And I'm always telling everybody to go to 10. Y'all hear me say that all the time. Go to 10, go to 10, go to 10. And what you see on the screen right now is basically, 3 people that many of you already know. And great thing was these people allowed us to see some pictures from when they, wasn't looking as hot. And what we see very quickly is that a lot of times what we think, like I say, is attractiveness is just really grooming and glamour. And what I mean by glamour is that is when a woman gets her hair done, and it doesn't have to be pressed, ladies. It just needs to be in a cute style that works for you. And when I say works for you, I'm saying works for you, because sometimes women might have a little narrow, head at the top, and that's not necessarily as attractive. So you might want, your hair to kind of poof out up there. Or, you might have certain colors that you're wearing, as far as lipstick or something like that, or even lip gloss. And people don't beat me up over lip gloss. Lip gloss ain't nothing but chapstick, really, with a little food coloring. So when you start to talk about that, what colors are you using? A lot of times they try to encourage, especially women, to go with trends, but trends don't always work for every woman. And one of the things that I'm always encouraging women to pay attention to is pay attention to celebrities, because celebrities don't follow trends. You think they do, but they really don't, because they only follow it if it looks good on them. So you don't really see a lot of, for instance, a lot of celebrities walking around with green fingernail polish. That's really something they've sold to the consumer, because green is not a color that men are attracted to. Men are attracted to reds, all right, and whites and usually earth tones. So for a lot of women, they'll be walking around with this green fingernail polish and they think, oh, I'm so cute. Yeah, you're cute to other women at this level, but you're not really that cute at that high level, right? So again, these are all things that people have done in order to, glow themselves up, right? I want to make sure that we have a strong foundation, before, I continue. And again, here you see, in this particular picture, you have a lot of different things going on. And as you see, this lady here, she has what they call like the scarring in certain parts of Africa, where they find that very attractive. And then you even have this lady that actually has a tattoo right here. And us in America, men in America, we might not find that attractive, but for Polynesians, that is extremely attractive. So again, you're never going to please everyone. You're not. That's not the whole point. The point is to please the person that you're with. All right, so let's get back to it. All right, so what you're seeing right now, actually went to her Instagram. I mean, she provided it. I might as well go to her Instagram and see if she has pictures of herself. So now we can see a really nice picture that she's put up with good lighting, so we can really get a good look at her. Now, as people are looking at her, I mean, she put herself out on the internet. That's how this works. And I've told you all before, that's also why a lot of women do not put themselves out here, is because they're concerned about moments like this. But I am not, here to talk bad about her at all. When I see this woman, I see a woman that is attractive. Now, she might not see herself as attractive, but again, let's talk about this. So again, it's all about who you are dating. First of all, every man wants something different. And I've talked about that before. Some men are more into the BBL looking type of people, while some guys want a girl next door type of look. And she has more of a girl next door type of look. And then you also have to realize, like I've told you about me, just to give you a little bit about me, is that, remember, I am an intellectual. So I am a little bit more into a woman's mind. And just by listening to her a little bit, she seems like she's a little bit more mental, which is actually going to boost her for me. So based off of some of the stuff that I've seen on her Instagram page, my guess is that she's somewhere in her mid 20s, maybe around 25, 26 years old, because she has some stuff where she had joined a sorority. And in that time, okay, it says around, 2021-ish, So from that point, generally when somebody first joins, they put up a lot of pictures, but then after time, it kind of, drains down a little bit. So it's been about 3 or 4 years since then. So more than likely, okay, she's at least 23, probably no more than 26. Okay, which again, one of the things she talked about in that little bit of time that we had to look at it. She was talking about, I don't get dates. I don't get guys to take care of me. I don't get guys, blah, blah, blah. Again, it's who you're dating. See, honestly, as crazy as it sounds, if I was to talk to her as a friend, right? And she's 24, 25, and I've gone through this actually with people in my own family. Once a woman turns 25, to me, that is like her prime time for marriage, 25 to 30. And I've said it over and over and over again. I'll never not say it because I truly believe that that is a woman's time. However, when you're 24, 25 and you're dating guys that are 26, 27, you're already not dating the proper man. All right. And so for me, I would be telling her if the man ain't got a 3, and like I said, I don't know exactly how old she is, but she's at least 25. I would be telling her if he doesn't have at least a 3 in front of his age, you shouldn't be dating him. Okay, you got to get to a guy that's a little bit more mature, a little bit more ready to settle down. Now, some guys could be ready in their 20s, all right, but most guys aren't. They're still trying to figure out what they want out of life. They're still trying to get their money up. And I'm not one of these people that's going to encourage women to date a dude that ain't got nothing, all right? And I'm always telling men, same way I'm doing this video for women, okay, I'm always telling men, go get your money, all right? And I'm always giving you guys ideas to go get money. Like I gave the sandwich idea. If you can't do nothing else, make sandwiches in your kitchen. Walk around your neighborhood. Ask people if they want to buy a sandwich. There's so many people that work from home these days. If you bring them lunch and charge them $12, a lot of people will do it. Right now, I literally go to a restaurant every other day and I buy 3 meals for about $12. Why? Because I'm so busy, I don't have time to cook. So there's money all over the place. All you have to do as a man is tap into it. So anyway, let's get back to it. So if she is basically going out here and she's not at the club, because I don't say go to the club. I've never told people to go to the club. She goes to the place where she's going to meet more intelligent men, more men that are ready to settle down, okay, and looking like she does, because she's cute. Okay, so looking like she does, and she talks to those men. Oh, she can get a man. She don't have no problem. Okay, now men might not say she's a 10 out of 10 and all this other kind of stuff, but she don't have to be a 10 out of 10. Okay, because again, like I said before, there's no group of men that will ever agree. I've told you often, okay, my celebrity baby mama is, the singer Her. All right? And when I am looking at her, most people don't think about her when they talk about a sexy celebrity. Then I also use Lori Harvey. And a lot of people, like almost every time I've talked to a woman about Lori Harvey, they think she's just so gorgeous. But I don't. All right? So you cannot believe that everybody's chasing Rihanna or everybody's chasing Beyonce or all the men out here are chasing this, that, and the third. Men are not like women. We're opportunists. If you put a Beyonce lookalike in front of me, oh, I'm going to talk to her. If you put a Rihanna lookalike in front of me, oh, I'm going to talk to her. Okay? I'm not going to pass up a beautiful woman. I'm not going to go after 100% my 10 when I got somebody that, in my opinion, might be an 8 or a 7 or whatever in front of me. And then she's a nice person. And then she also is, everything else that I'm looking for. See, this is where the difference between men and women come in, because women are very concerned about getting that higher level man, which again, I understand why. Because when a woman, quote unquote, hitches her wagon, i.e. she comes into a situation where the man is going to lead her forever, all right, she's going to submit to him, okay, she wants to make sure he got it under control. She's trying to make sure that everything's going to work out. That is a biological need for women, and I don't think men should continue to beat up on women for it, right? But at the same time, I do believe that women need to be reasonable about it. But again, this is not that conversation. So again, in this particular scenario, the woman is attractive. And I always even talk about, where people go and who, like I said, who appreciates you. If you are in Northern California and they don't appreciate you, leave. If you're in New York, New Jersey, all right, and people don't appreciate you, leave. If this girl, I'm going to be real with you, if this girl right here talked to a 40-year-old guy, and I know that's a huge difference, like 15-year difference, okay, for her, she would get all the treatment she wanted. If she picked the right guy at that level, because I'll be real, for a 40-year-old man, and this is no disrespect to the women, because I'm trying to show women where their power is. For a 40-year-old man, 45-year-old man, we'll say in that age range, that is looking for a family, that's looking for somebody to be his wife, that a 25-year-old woman will always beat a 35-year-old woman, even if the 35-year-old woman is pretty much taking care of herself. So a woman she thinks she's a 7 out of 10, okay, for the guys that are around her age, she gains like a point and a half, if she's willing to date a guy 10 years older, 15 years older. And I know a lot of women might feel like that is not fair, but that is women's privilege. That is one of the benefits about being a woman. All right? And that's how it works. Same thing with men. As men get more money, they get more power in dating. Okay, a man that makes $50,000 has a little bit of power, but a man that makes $150,000 makes a lot more power, right? And women understand this. So don't get mad, when it's in reverse. But again, it's about going where you are appreciated. So if this woman is saying, okay, I can deal with a man that's 35. I can deal with a man that's older than me, and he's like 10, 11, 12 years older than me. Oh, she could probably pull a millionaire. And that's the point. That's the point. We have to understand really where beauty is. And it's not just in what your peers say. It's not just in what you think is around you. It is in the essence of how you know how to push yourself and how you know how to navigate spaces. Because it's just like I said, Lori Harvey is in a different space. In that space, people find her attractive. And because her glamour is so nice, the world, or at least the United States, a lot of people find her attractive. Okay? But in that attractiveness, okay, up at that level, it's still very difficult, as crazy as it sounds, for Lori Harvey to get married. And we've talked about this before. Because men at that level don't necessarily have to marry or date Lori Harvey. They can marry or date anybody that they want. Because when you're a millionaire, you literally can date 99% of America, right? So anyway, I know some people might call me, a simp, for saying stuff like this, but this is not simping at all. This is just bringing about information, okay? And we always talk about we want to line up with truth. We want to find answers, okay? We want to help people, and that's the point, okay? And so people have to leverage what they got. It's like the old things people used to tell women, and I don't know if they ever told her, but, that's what grandmamas used to tell, women, is they would be like, girl, you got to work what you got. So if you got pretty legs, you got to show off your pretty legs. If you got pretty feet, you show off your pretty feet. If you got pretty hands, you show off your pretty hands. If you got pretty eyes, you show off your pretty eyes. You show off what you got. Now, when I say that, that don't mean be naked. Okay, ladies, that don't mean be naked, because a lot of guys don't like that, especially in the Christian environment. And honestly, if they're going to wife you up, they want you to be decently modest. Okay? Anyway, hope this helped. Remember, membership is open. So if you want to go deeper, membership is open. Also, first and third Wednesdays, we will be doing Zoom calls. Right now, they're open to the public, but sooner or later, those will go into membership. You'll have to be a member to be on the Zoom part, which is those that are people that can ask questions. All right. So that will happen in the future. But for right now, it's open for everybody to come out, ask questions. So I will see you guys on September 4th. Don't know exactly when this video will come out, but I'll see you guys on September 4th. And we'll start to do those Zoom calls. And in that way, we can have a really great conversation. But anyway, until then, please like, please subscribe, and I will see you all in the very next video.